All right, welcome to the Play Hire Pioneers webinar. This project is being led by Dr. Megan Gandy, who is in the School of Social Work at WVU, and I'm Samantha Leggett-Bradley. I'm the graduate research assistant on the Play Hires program project for this fiscal year. So excited to talk to you about the Play Hire Pioneers project. And just to give you an outline of what we're going to be looking at here throughout this webinar. First, we're going to just give an introduction of virtual reality, and then we're going to talk about the use of virtual reality in specifically career exploration, since that's what this program is kind of targeting. We're going to give an introduction to our game, Play Hire, and then we're going to kind of extend an invitation to apply to become a Play Hire pioneer. So that being said, that's kind of the outline, and let me just talk about the learning objectives that we have here for this webinar. So first, again, to describe the application of virtual reality technology, as well as this whole concept of gamification in social work career pipeline curriculum and workforce exploration. So that's, first of all, one of the learning objectives that we have here. Secondly, we want to appraise the application of gamification and virtual reality technology in West Virginia career pipeline curricula, and in the effort to support young people's exploration of social work fields and fields in behavioral health. Third, we want to compare the results of the program evaluation pilot data for this project to kind of evaluate the effectiveness of the game experience on career development. How well is it doing in that area? And then fourth, to learn about how to get involved with the Play Hire Pioneers program. If you're a teacher, if you're a counselor, if you're a social worker, if you're a program leader at another organization, we want to talk to you about how you can kind of join us in the Play Hire Pioneers program. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to dive into is just talking about what is virtual reality. And so let's just kind of dive into that. And of course, there are lots of ways to define virtual reality, but for the purposes here, I think what would be most helpful are a couple definitions that you see on the slide. We have this computer-generated environment that's designed to simulate 3D physical environments, and it provides a lot of user interaction. So that's one definition that we see there. And another definition talks about it, again, being this interactive computer simulation, and it's tracking the participant or the user's position and their actions and their behaviors, and it's sending feedback to the user's senses. It's giving this feeling of being mentally immersed and present in a virtual world. And so all of these, really all of these different definitions point to the fact that there's going to be computer simulation involved here, and that it's going to be incredibly immersive. It's really an exciting way to look at kind of an abstract world of behavioral health, because there's really rare opportunities to kind of touch or feel or see what that type of career is like. And so we'll talk here in the next slide about some advantages of virtual reality, but as a pedagogical methodology, it really plays an important role in education. It increases student engagement and motivation. There's literature to support that. Virtual reality is no longer just a tool for entertainment. There are lots of different types of virtual reality apps and programs that span across workplace safety trainings and healthcare patient simulations and behavioral health treatments, and there's STEM pipeline education, just to name a few. There's lots of literature on how virtual reality is being used in all of these different ways. It talks about a lot of the literature, again, speaking to how virtual reality as an intervention is increasing student engagement in these educational settings. And so it really provides a viable opportunity for innovative and effective engagement for middle and high school students for behavioral health career education. So I've been talking about the advantages, and we have a slide really just dedicated to talking about why virtual reality, because of all these advantages that I've named and more. I mean, and not the least of which that I keep wanting to drive home is that we see in the literature that using virtual reality increases student engagement in educational settings. And so it's because of it has this immersive element to it, that there's this feeling of immersion that is improving not only the student engagement, but it's improving their knowledge of whatever that virtual reality program is simulating or whatever that's presenting to students. We see literature, again, for students in learning STEM careers and learning engineering, and in our case here, what we're talking about in learning behavioral health. And so there's applicability to a lot of different careers. And as I mentioned before, with behavioral health careers, that's not really a career path that you can just kind of try out, right? There's potential risk of harm to the client, there's potential risk of harm to the student. And so this provides a way for students to, again, get into the immersive world of what it's like to be in the field of behavioral health, to kind of touch, feel, and see what a career in behavioral health could look like. So that's virtual reality in a nutshell. And so let's talk a little bit more specifically about what is Play Higher. So again, Play Higher is this program where we are focused on behavioral health, this new game that's using virtual reality that's made by the School of Social Work. And so just to kind of talk about the purpose or the mission of Play Higher, really we playing higher for higher purposes. Playing for higher purposes is the goal here, that we use play to connect people with higher education, to elevate people to higher career opportunities, to bring higher functioning to our communities as a result. And so with some background here about behavioral health, particularly in West Virginia, just to kind of show the need here, that we have this behavioral health workforce shortage in West Virginia, that there are reports from the Health Resources Services Administration. Every county in West Virginia has a workforce shortage in this area, a behavioral health workforce shortage. The West Virginia DHHR, it estimates that 33% of their child protective service positions are vacant. And when we look at, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we're going to see a 9% growth of social workers and a 22% growth in substance abuse and behavior disorder and mental health counselors needed by 2031. So there's a need. There's a workforce shortage. There is some growth, but there is a big need to kind of fill the gap. And so that being said, just some other background here, and I mentioned some of these statistics that are popping up on the slide there. But also wanted to point out the funding for this project coming from the West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission, that this funding opportunity is to encourage middle, high school students, college students to consider behavioral health career fields, and that this has been created to help alleviate West Virginia behavioral health professional shortage that we just talked about in the previous slide. There's a serious need for folks to join this profession. And so I've talked about some of those statistics already in the previous slide. And so with this program, we have the West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission Behavioral Health Pipeline Opportunity Award. And so our goal, again, is to try to address some of these shortages in behavioral health in the state of West Virginia and have this be a pipeline for students to discover a passion for this field that they really probably wouldn't have discovered otherwise. So looking at the goals of behavioral health goals for Play Higher, we're trying to teach young West Virginia students about social work and or behavioral health careers. And we're trying to do that in a way that's very engaging, that's exciting, and a different content delivery using this virtual reality format or channel, as well as using some gamification elements, which I'll talk about in a bit. We want to encourage more students to consider a career in behavioral health, to consider a degree in social work. And so by doing those things, hopefully alleviating this shortage of behavioral health professionals in West Virginia, in the hopes of having an increase in the number of students pursuing careers in behavioral health. So let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game itself and what is the Play Higher game like. Well, first I'll talk about the game content itself. And to sum it up, it's really a day in the life of a behavioral health social worker. And so in that day, the user, the participant, the student would observe a virtual social worker's first meeting with a virtual client. And the user, the student, the participant would choose how this social worker is going to engage the client. And so the point, one of the major goals of the game is to earn the client's trust by selecting correct answers, correct communicative responses to help this client meet their needs. And so In the game, there's also like a mini quest or a mini game where the participants learn about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how that can be then implemented into making decisions for the client that they're working with throughout the game. The users or the students earn virtual office decorations as prizes. That's some of the gamification elements I'll go over in a minute. And they complete the game by finding the best solution for this client's needs. So that's kind of an overarching view of what the game content consists of. And so, sorry, I haven't been keeping up with the slide as I'm talking about it. So that's again, the content of the game. And if you would like to view a gameplay trailer, I'm not going to play these here during this webinar recording. However, there are two links here for in the webinar slides. If you're interested in looking at the gameplay trailer, you're more than welcome to do that. And also, let's talk about specifically the educational content of the game. What are these students taking away from the game itself? And the first thing to note is this interpersonal engagement through open-ended questions. And so that's one of the big things that the students are taught, to ask questions of the client that kind of prompts more communication between the social worker and the client. And so kind of learning how to go about appropriate and effective interpersonal engagement with the client, learning how to utilize these open-ended questions. Secondly, I mentioned before that assessment through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the students are taught Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They're given examples of that. And then they have a little mini game where they need to demonstrate their comprehension of what types of needs would fit into what part of Maslow's hierarchy. And again, that's used then as they make decisions for how to best help and serve the client. Third would be intervention through person and environment. So that's another concept, behavioral health concept that the students would be taught. And again, implementing that as they help this client throughout the game. And finally, valuing self-determination. So that's another concept that the students are taught throughout the game. So that's kind of some of the major educational content of the game. To talk about the gamification elements, the gamification itself, that is a term that kind of became popularized in 2010s. It's best understood as the use of game design elements in non-game contexts. So literature has shown that it increases intrinsic motivation to engage in educational activities. So there are certainly gamification elements throughout the Play Higher game. First, the game is broken into several quests that the participants are asked to complete. And as they go throughout these quests, they are earning stars on a trust meter that they can see in the game. And when they have these stars earned, they can then redeem their earned stars for prizes. And you see a picture on this slide of kind of the prize store where they can use these prizes and choose prizes to decorate their virtual social worker office or their virtual therapy office. So those are some of the gamification elements that we see present in the Play Higher game. Also wanted to note that there is a computer 2D alternative to the Play Higher game. It's the same content as the 3D VR headset version of the Play Higher game, but it's displayed on a laptop or a computer monitor. And so this can be used to be more accessible for hearing, visual, mobility needs of students. It's also Chromebook compatible. So wanted to make note that that's an option as well. And with game alternatives as well, I wanted to highlight that there is a computer non-story alternative, working with the clients who are facing maybe food insecurity or bullying or those types of things. There is this non-story alternative where there is no triggering content, but it is teaching the same behavioral health concepts as the version of the game with the story content. So, and further, again, I wanted to note that these alternatives are accessible for hearing, visual, and mobility needs that students might have. And again, they are Chromebook compatible. There is a link there if you're interested in looking at those alternative versions of the game. And again, you're more than welcome to click on that as you have access to the slides. I wanted to talk to you about research on Play Higher, just some pilot evaluation data that we have from testing this game early on here. And we tested the game. We have data from the 3D virtual reality version of the game, and we kind of compared that to the 2D laptop version of the game. And doing that, there were some surveys that were given to participants before playing the game, so pre-playing the game, and then after they played the game, and some retrospective surveys as well. And the findings here are that participants did have an increased familiarity across both types, 3D as well as 2D. Did also find increased interest more in the 3D version of the game versus the 2D laptop version of the game. And more details with that is that the virtual reality experience, participants maybe felt more invested, which led to higher scores in certain questions. So that's just some of the just quick pilot evaluation data that we have from earlier plays of the game, students playing the game. So now to talk about the Play Higher Pioneers program specifically, let me go through who the Play Higher Pioneers are specifically. So let's talk through that. The Play Higher Pioneers are you. You will be pioneering this game in the state of West Virginia. So Play Higher Pioneers are using this virtual reality game for career exploration and education, especially for behavioral health careers like social work, and using this game as a learning tool and an activity in curriculum that you already have existing. And so uh, further, as part of the Play Higher Pioneers program, you're helping researchers, you're helping us to collect this data on the effectiveness of the game and on this pioneering process to see how it's going, how we can sharpen it moving forward. And overall, Play Higher Pioneers are helping to improve the state of West Virginia by increasing the workforce of behavioral health workers in our state, addressing some of those gaps and needs that we have in the behavioral health field in West Virginia. And so for Play Higher Pioneers, what do Play Higher Pioneers do specifically? Well, we can work left to right on the slide here. First of all, there's a learning component, particularly if you're not familiar with virtual reality or virtual reality headsets. You would learn how to use a virtual reality headset. We would provide training for you to do that. You would participate in webinars to also learn the survey procedures because we would be asking you to implement surveys with your students. And you would then use the Play Higher game in career exploration in your context, whether that be in your school or in your program, whatever that might look like for you. And so we're looking for the Play Higher game to be used in career exploration with middle and high school students. And so there are procedures with gaining parental permission. So you see that as the next part of the slide there. And so following those procedures to get parental permission for students to take part in the survey. So the survey asks about, obviously the parent's child's feedback on the game, their interest in a behavioral health social work career. And so getting those parental consents would be part of being a Play Higher pioneer as well. And then ensuring that the students take the survey both before and after gameplay. So again, getting that students' feedback on their gameplay, what they liked about it, what didn't go great for them, as well as before they play the game, kind of seeing what their knowledge and interest in behavioral health is versus after the game. And so they would take two surveys, once before and after the game. And then to report on the process of running the game, that you would kind of tell us how it went on running that game for each student. You would tell us how it went for running the game overall and at the end of the year. And then this would be a 3-year partnership for the Play Higher Pioneers program. And so then we would send these surveys once they're complete back to the researchers. We'd pay for all of the postage for that. And there would be an end of the year report we would ask for you to complete as well. So each of those surveys could be mailed back to the researcher each quarter, give or take. And again, we would provide all of the postage and everything for that. So that's kind of in a nutshell what Play Higher Pioneers would do. And so perhaps you're starting to think about like how could you implement this game in your setting, in your context. So let's talk about that a little bit. we would recommend like that we select a curriculum that includes career exploration. So whatever you already have in place, or if you don't have something in place, considering how you might want this integrated into your context. And so incorporating the play hire game into lesson plans is an idea. Allowing students to take turns playing the game and completing the surveys as you go through a lesson plan that you've developed that's about career exploration. There also to consider something to consider here would be the West Virginia College and Career Readiness. There's dispositions and standards for student success, and there's also along with kind of looking at programming overall, there's on this slide, I just wanted to highlight there's certainly ways that the Play Hire Pioneers program, the Play Hire game, could be integrated into meeting some of these goals that we see for career development and life planning. We see here like to develop career awareness, develop career and life plan, careers and life success. There's lots of ways that we could see Play Hire being integrated into this. If we look at high school career and technical education, just to highlight some things here, that there are educational aspects of Play Hire that meet standards for common classes in like human services pathways, including fundamentals of human services. And you can see some additional information there. Human development, practical applications of human services. And there are 11 counties in West Virginia that have that human services pathway. So that would be something to consider as well. And just one more slide to kind of think about this integration into your context, that there certainly are ways that the Play Hire game would integrate into content skill sets that we see on this slide with industry-based integration and transition. So it would certainly have multiple ways that it hopefully could fit into your context or your program or your school or your environment, that you could see this taking place with those middle and high school students. If you're thinking about it in the context of a counselor's office, the game implementation in a counselor's office could be discussing career exploration with students during those counseling interactions, offering the Play Hire game to students who might be curious or interested in behavioral health careers like social work, to have the student complete those pre-game and post-game surveys. So we could certainly see it being implemented in those kind of guidance areas of work, in those counseling office areas of work. I did want to note in this next slide a little more about the surveys themselves, because I know that I brought those up. And so we've talked before in a previous slide about how there would be parent permission. And permission is gained by the parents only so that the students could complete the survey. And so, again, part of being a Play Hire pioneer is helping our research team collect these surveys from the students. And so we would mail paper surveys to you at no cost to you. And so you would be asked to send home a parent permission form, which again, it just covers the permission for the survey. So students can still play the game, even if they don't have permission to take the survey. But we would need that permission from any students who are taking part in the survey. So for all those students who would have that permission, then the second part you see on the slide is the surveys and actually playing the game. So there would be a pre-game survey that you would have all the students take. Then you'll implement the game into your classroom or into your program, into your context, and then you'll have students who play the game take the post-game survey. And you'll also have a post-game report for each student that you would fill out as the leader or the teacher or the counselor for each student who plays the game. And so after that, you would mail back these surveys at around each quarter. Again, we would make sure that all of that postage was taken care of for you. And we would provide any shipping materials that you would need as well. And then finally, there would be an at the end of the year, an end of year report that we'd ask you to complete to just tell us about your experiences with the game and just any ideas you would have for us for improvement on the game. So those are that's the survey element of the Play Hire Pioneers program. So if this is something that you feel like could be implemented into your context, here's how to become a Play Hire Pioneer. Let's talk through that. Let's talk about eligibility and kind of move from there. So if you're a teacher, if you're a school counselor, if you're a social worker, if you're some sort of program leader in West Virginia, if you engage with students in middle or high school, you're eligible to check out the Play Hire Pioneers program. You do need to have a willingness to learn how to use a virtual reality headset and to learn how to run the Play Hire game. Again, we would provide that training to you, but you would need to have a willingness to be a part of that process. And you would need to be able to offer the game to at least 50 students at your location during the school year. And it would be a 3-year partnership with us as part of the Play Hire program. So as if you're interested in application details, I wanted to go over those next. It's an online survey. There are 5 short answer questions just about the current career education or career exploration in your school or in your program, in your context, why your program would benefit from having a virtual reality headset for career exploration and for education, and how you would plan on using the headset in your current curriculum or in your current programming. And so it's a very short application to an online survey that you would fill out as your application. The deadlines and dates for those applications are here on this slide. The deadline would be April 11th, and we would make the decisions for the Play Hire Pioneers program by April 30th. We would have those trainings for you online in May and June before the end of the school year. And our hope would be the program start would be that 2025-2026 academic year. So if you're interested in joining us for the Play Hire Pioneers program, there is a QR code that's up on the slide, or you can just visit playhire.wvu.edu /PHP, or just click on the Play Hire Pioneers tab. So again, you can check out the QR code or go to playhire.wvu.edu and you can click on that Play Hire Pioneers tab. So we do want to, again, recognize our partners through the Higher Education Policy Commission, Roundtable Learning, and Mon River Games for developing this virtual reality game. We certainly want to thank the WVU Extension and the School of Social Work for being a part of this as well. And so we really look forward to hearing from you. We hope to partner with you in the future. Thanks for taking the time to check us out.